if you've never used a Mac, I want you to be familiar with a Mac, is all of the different things that are available at this bar over here. On your PCs, if you've been using a PC, when you close a file, there's an X on your right-hand corner. On the Mac, everything is on the left-hand corner. So if I open up my Safari, which is just like on your PC, that is your place to open Blackboard. You know, you can log into Blackboard here. If I'm going to close Blackboard, the red one is closed, the green is open, and the yellow minimize that. So that's going back and forth to Blackboard. And then you can add your Blogger and do the same thing. Do a new page, type in Blogspot or blogger.com, and then you can log into your Blogger and get your pictures from that. So if I click View Blog, I've logged in. There's my blog. That's all Safari. To find your applications on your Mac, ladies, find your application on your Mac. It's the rocket ship. That's called the Launchpad. When you get the Launchpad up here, you have to drag that over with your mouse, and we're going to use Adobe Photoshop today, and that's this one right here, Adobe Photoshop CC 2017, and you may have to click it twice. It depends on your mouse. You can click it once. And that's going to take forever to open up, but it will open up. All right, and there it is. So since we went to Blogger, we're going to go back and pull up that original photograph that hopefully you put up there. So if your mouse is working right, you can hold down on the left side of the mouse and go down to Save Image to Downloads or Save Image As. I'm going to go to Downloads. And then I will be able to then go back to my Photoshop, which is right there, 2017, and go File to Open. And it was here's where it will go to your desktop, your documents, your downloads. I said save it to downloads. Now I have to go find, there it is. And open. All right, so there's my original photograph. And the very first thing we're going to do almost every single time when we open up our Photoshop is to add a new layer. This says right here under Layers, Background. If you do not have the Layers panel showing, you have to go to Window and pull it down to Layers, or it is a quick link of F7. So there's the background layer. I want a new layer. There's two ways to do it. I can right click that background and I can say Layer from Background, or I can duplicate the layer, or Layer from Background, Layer 0. I want a new layer. And it didn't let me do it that way. So I'll go to Layers and just pull over to New Layer. See where that is under Layer? New Layer. That way I have the background and and a blank layer. So that's what everybody needs to do first, is add a new layer on. All right, what we're going to do is use our paint brushes. And we're going to make lines or erase lines with our paintbrush. All right, so here are our brushes. We have one that looks like a paintbrush. We have one that looks like a pencil. We have one that looks like a mixer brush. So let's start with the brush tool. My brushes are all over here. If I click on the brush tool right here across the top, you can still see I have pencil, airbrush, paintbrush, and I have a brush right here. And you think that's your brushes, but it isn't. There are thousands of brushes in Adobe Photoshop. So if you're on your little brush here and you've got brushes here, I just appended that. I click there, I click on the tool, I went to calligraphic brushes, and I can just replace it, but I usually always append it because then that means it's added more brushes to what I have. And I can use the color that's showing up here, and right now it's white. And that's a pretty big brush. See how big it is on the screen? And I'm on a whole new layer. I could come in with a brush over the top of it. And if you don't like what you did, that one was such a huge brush, I'll change the size down. I'm just going to do kind of like what we did with glaze and add lines over the top using different brushes. If you don't want it to be gray, you can choose a different color. You can do that, or you can choose a color with your eyedropper that's similar. So here's kind of a turquoise down here, and I can try a different brush. That I've got to go back to my paintbrush. There it is. And here are all the different brushes that I have. I try whatever brush that shows up here that I want to try. Yes, ma'am.
I have a class coming up. Can I leave?
This class goes until 3:20.
I have it in my schedule at 1:30, but I have class coming up right now.
I'll need to see your schedule, because I think we may need to change it. Does that make sense, everybody?
I told him this class till
12:30, 1:30, and then it's 1:30 to 3:15. So the next one that you have should be at 3:30 in the music building instead of.
Yeah, I know.
But this is it's 2:50, so our class isn't quite over for another 20 minutes.
Like why are you saying here 1:30?
1:30 to 3:15 is this class. See, there's two of them: 12:30 to 1:30 and 1:30 to 3:15.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so anybody need help back there? We're trying, if you haven't got as far as sitting at a computer, that's what I'd like you to try today. We're trying putting in a new layer, and we're adding lines in with your paintbrush.
Here doesn't let me try the title on the post.
All right, title, click there.
I click
And then
there,
you can
I
type
write
it.
it, but it go out myself.
What were you going to type?
Line design 1. I keep on saying that.
Okay, so I got that up there this time.
Okay.
Just because I went faster, or maybe because there's
So
less
just, like,
people
leave
on.
it like that.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot write more than.
I go ahead and let's try the computer and get you started on your computer. That we did a whole bunch of things so far today. I'd like to get you started in Photoshop before you go, if you can.
Come up with this little thing when I tried to publish the line examples.